Hi guys, this is Scott Pulsini from ScottPulsiniTrader.com, and this is my SI indicators, stop iceberg indicator setups and educational course. I'm briefly going to go over, before I get into that, let's take a minute to look at this disclaimer. Okay, so I'm briefly going to go over what the stops and icebergs are. Almost all of you should know what it is if you purchase the indicator and have been looking at it for any amount of time. But for those, just a quick refresher. The CME put out about 3 years ago, something called MBO market by order data. Let's drag this over here, where you can find this on their website at the end of this presentation in the PDF. There's links to all of these as well, including my bookmap webinars I've done on the subject. But it's basically expanded information data on orders that flow through the CME. Prior you were only able to see about 10 levels, bid and offer, as far as data, price points, and then also that the orders weren't specific as far as order ID numbers. But the MBO information, again, you can go to their site. The link is at the end of this presentation, but it explains the market by price versus MBO. Market by price is just, it doesn't give you anywhere near the amount of information that you need to make intelligent decisions in the market and be on the same playing field as the big money. So I've said this many times, the big firms, the hedge funds, the quant funds, they've all had this information for years, and that's why they have ridiculous winning percentages, saying, you hear stories of Goldman, or not even stories, news releases, Goldman Sachs made money 198 out of 200 trading days last year, things like that, where you're like, oh, is that possible? It's possible because they have this kind of information, which you're about to learn, and you're about to learn the setups and be on the lookout for where they're participating and where they're not participating and where the retail money is participating, to just make better decisions in your own trading, right? So again, all these examples that you're going to see in my education course is based solely on the SI indicator. It takes nothing else into account as far as larger context in the markets. That's for you to discern with what you use, whether it be just bar charts or Fibonacci or moving averages or whatever you use this SI indicator with Bookmap to help make better decisions if your areas are legitimate. That's the whole point of it. So you can use just trade straight off the volume. I'm a big believer in that. That's what I used to do when I made millions of dollars. I used to trade strictly off the trading dome, but again, you have to be able to catch every single setup if you want to have it statistically in your favor. So obviously most of us don't write programs and aren't quant guys, so you have to use bigger picture outlooks for your trading, to make decisions. So and then of course later on SI indicator setups that you're going to learn here. So again, this just talks about what the icebergs versus the MBO versus the market by order versus MBP, and I thought there was so it basically explains the iceberg order IDs. So the iceberg order ID is the way they display them now. It's easy, not easy, but software quants and algorithms like Bookmaps are able to disseminate that information and figure out which orders are icebergs, because they have a unique per order and they are consistent for the life of the order. So that's a way for them to tell if they're icebergs. And also they have order IDs for stops, and they can tell when again, this is all based on the incredible Bookmap software that disseminates the information, but it tells you with 100% accuracy whether they're stops or icebergs, and that has huge information in your own trading. Again, watch my webinars at the end. There's links to those. You can get a better idea. But again, most of you have a pretty good hold on what this is telling you. But I just wanted to kind of show you this. And then as far as Bookmap is concerned, You can, this link is also in the PDF, where you can go in here and you can read about the advantages of the MBO data with Bookmap, and then just kind of an introduction and settings and what the each setting is. I'm just going to briefly show you what mine are, but if you want to learn more about, I'm not going to dive into exactly what each of these are. All you have to do is go to this, go to the link at the end in the PDF and read about it if you guys don't already know. But everything's explained here as far as what you need to know. And the other thing you need to know, which again I'm sure you do if you already have this SI indicator, is Rhythmic is the only software, the data provider that provides this information from the CME, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. It's just I just don't understand it, but we'll take advantage of it. And again, I'd say it's probably 99% of the traders don't have this information. So you do, and now with this program, this educational program, you're going to learn how to apply it as well. So briefly, I will go, here's a disclaimer, we already went over that. This is my volume dot settings. I'm basically just using, when you see the bubbles in all my examples, I use blue and red because I'm colorblind. Blue is buy, red is sell. The default on Bookmap is green and red. So I can't discern the difference. So that's why I use blue and red. So just know the blue is buying, market buying. The red is market selling. And then these are my, what I'm using in here. I don't really use this large log tracker. I don't even know why that's checked, but everything else is I use the volume delta. So the bubbles are basically showing me the difference between buyers and sellers, and that's what I want to know. I want to know who's winning. And then these are my stop iceberg or the SI indicator settings. I use exponential for both my stops and icebergs. You can use the reset as well. That resets every time period that you want. Exponential is more of a time decay type of thing over a minute. Again, you can look at that link I just showed you with the bookmap.com, the blog. It's at the end of the PDF there. You can click on it and understand what the exponential versus reset versus sum. Sum is basically just a cumulative all day, and that just doesn't help me for the way I trade, but you can decipher how you want to use it. My examples are all based on these settings that you're going to learn in the course. So exponential, I use these colors, orange for the stops, blue for my icebergs. I have a symmetric axis around 0. I don't use synchronized all axes because if there's one outsized move, so say there's a 1200 lot iceberg, it makes everything look, as far as stops, you can't really tell when there's a big stop run because the 1200 kind of makes everything smaller relatively. So I don't synchronize all axes, but you can, again, play around with these settings and however you want to use them. But just know that in the examples in my educational course, this is what I'm using. These are the product thresholds I've studied over the last 4 months, 19 different futures markets, and you see them all here. For those of you who don't know, I'll go over these quickly. Mini S&P, NASDAQ, crude oil. This is West Texas Intermediate crude oil, gold, silver, bonds, corn, soybeans, wheat, copper, natural gas, lean hogs. Is it lean hogs? Cattle. I think this is cattle. Yeah, this is cattle. This is hogs. Sorry, I don't trade it that often, but I've done research on it for you guys. 6E, which is a euro. 6A, which is the Australian dollar or the Aussie. 6B is the British pound. 6C is the Canadian dollar. 6S is the Swiss franc. And 6J is the Japanese yen. So these are all against the US dollar. And these are all the thresholds. So for icebergs, what you want to see, and you'll see plenty of examples as we get into the course, but you want to see over these thresholds to consider it a worthy iceberg or a worthy stop run, right? Because you'll be seeing stop runs and icebergs throughout the whole day. You're not going to be taking every single time you see the thing spike. As long as it's, if it's over these levels, then yes. If it's below these levels, my experience, it's not worth the trade. The edge is not there. When you start to get above these levels and beyond, that's where the edge comes in. And again, this is all explained throughout the course, and you guys will have full access to this as well in a PDF. And then here are the links that I was talking about. This is the Bookmap blog. It explains everything about the settings and the exponential, sum, all of that, and gets a little more in detail about the SI indicator. This is CME group explanation of the MBO data that we just discussed. This is my link to my latest webinar that we went and dispelled some of the myths. There's certain companies out there that are competitors that are saying that the SI indicator, the icebergs don't tell you anything. It's not made to disseminate in that way, and it's not important, and you don't know who's behind the iceberg. You don't know what they're doing, if they're spreading, if they're getting out of a position, if they're entering a position. I clarify all that in the video, but a short version is you absolutely want to know. It doesn't matter what the reason is, because you've got to remember, no matter what the iceberg is doing, whether they're getting out of position, entering a position, spreading, doesn't matter, because there's someone on the other side of that trade. So that makes that area, makes it very relevant, right? So you want to know where these orders are firing off. For one, obviously for my setups, that you're going to see how powerful they are, but just in general, you want to know where these areas are occurring and where the big money is playing to base some decisions. If it holds, that's good information. If it doesn't hold, that's good information. I've never once said in any of my webinars that you always have to buy an iceberg. If it's a buy iceberg, you want to get long. If it's a sell iceberg, you want to get short. I've never said that. I said you have an edge, right? And you'll see this in the educational program where it's 70% and above. But there's times the iceberg, there's big money is wrong, right? And you want to know when they're wrong, and you can play against it, things like that. And you'll see this in the course. Same with the stop runs, right? Stop runs are usually wrong, meaning 70% or more, because it's the retail trader that's puking the position. It's not real money entering the market. But there are times that the stop run fires off and then the big money comes behind it. Again, this is part of my course, you'll see. But just be cognizant of the fact it's not always the direction of where you're seeing it, it's where it's happening, and you want to take note of those areas, right? And then the Bookmap allows you to take notes in the Cloud Notes section. I'm not going to really get into that, but you can kind of, keep track, because, just because, it's today, but then tomorrow that area might be relevant too from the day before. So you want to keep track of where these big areas are firing off as far as icebergs and stops. And then these are just my three most recent webinars I've done on the. This one's a webinar too, and this is where you can get the TAS market profile indicators that I use at a discount. I don't go over any of that stuff in this program. I will in future, as far as my actual playbooks that I take, how I take trades. But this is also the webinar you can watch with Bruce and I from Bookmap and Steve from TAS. And then these are the three I've done on the SI indicator, which just basically they're pretty, I wouldn't say redundant, but I kind of go over the same concepts. And then now you guys have these concepts on steroids with the actual setups and the examples. So, and then there's, you'll see as you get into the program, it's over 2 hours of information and over 50 examples, and so on and so forth. So you guys should get a lot of value out of it. And thank you for the purchase. And I think you guys will do very well trading it. Thank you.